Hey there, good afternoon. So I'm going to give a talk about AI, trust, power, and integrity. And in it, I want to make four basic arguments. One, that there are two kinds of trust, interpersonal trust and social trust, and that we regularly confuse them. What matters here is social trust, which is about reliability and predictability in society. Two, that our confusion will increase with artificial intelligence. Basically, the corporations controlling AI will use that confusion to take advantage of us. Three, that this is actually a security problem. It's a confidentiality problem, but it's much more an integrity problem. And that integrity is going to be the primary security challenge for AI systems of the future. And four, that this is also a regulatory problem, and that it's government's role to enable social trust, which means incenting trustworthy AI. All right, so let's take this all a lot slower. Trust is a complicated concept, and the word is overloaded with many different meanings. So there is a personal and intimate trust. When we say that we trust a friend, it is less about their specific actions and more about them as a person, right? Some general reliance they will behave in a trustworthy manner. So that's interpersonal trust. There's also a less intimate, less personal type of trust. I might not know someone personally or know their motivations, but I can still trust their behavior. And I might trust a corporation or an abstract system. And this kind of trust is more about reliability and predictability. And we're going to call that social trust, right? The ability to trust strangers. Now, both of them, interpersonal trust and social trust, are essential in society today. And this is kind of how it works from a security perspective. We have mechanisms to induce people to behave in a trustworthy manner, both interpersonally and socially. This, in turn, allows others to be trusting, which enables trust in society, and that keeps society functioning. Right? I mean, this isn't perfect. There are always untrustworthy people, but most of us being trustworthy most of the time is good enough. So I wrote about a lot of this in 2012 in a book called Liars and Outliers. And in it, I wrote about four different systems for enabling trust: our innate morals, concerns about our reputation, the laws we live under, and security technologies that constrain our behavior. And I wrote how the first two are more informal than the last two, how the last two scale better and allow for complex societies. Now, they're what enable trust among strangers. What I didn't appreciate a decade ago is how different the first and last two are. Morals and reputation are person to person, based on human connection. They underpin interpersonal trust. Laws and security technologies are systems that compel us to act trustworthy, and they're the basis for social trust. Taxi driver used to be one of the country's most dangerous professions. And Uber changed that. I don't know my Uber driver, but the rules and the tech let us both be confident that neither of us will cheat or attack each other. We're both under constant surveillance. We're both competing for star rankings. So lots of people write about the difference between living in high trust and low trust societies. And that's all important literature. But for this talk, the critical point is that social trust scales better. You used to need a personal relationship with a banker to get a loan, but now that it's done all algorithmically, you have a lot more options. And that scale is really important. You could ask a friend to deliver a package across town, or you can pay the post office to do the same thing. The first is based on interpersonal trust, morals and reputation. You know your friend and how reliable they are. The second is a service made possible by social trust. And to the extent that it is a reliable and predictable service, it's primarily based on laws and technologies. Both of them will get your package delivered, but only the second can become FedEx. So because of how large and complex society has become, we've replaced many of the rituals and behaviors of interpersonal trust with security mechanisms that enforce predictability and reliability, social trust. But because we use the same word for both, we regularly confuse them. And when we do that, we are making a category error. And we do it all the time with governments, with organizations, with systems of all kind, and especially with corporations. We might think of them as friends when they're actually services. But corporations are not moral. They are precisely as immoral as they can get away with. And language and the law make this an easy category error to make. We use the same grammar for people and corporations. We can imagine having a personal relationship with a brand. We could give corporations many of the same legal rights as people. And corporations benefit from this confusion because they profit when we think of them as friends. We are about to make the same category error with AI. We're going to think of them as friends when they're not. So there's an interesting through line from government to corporations to AI. Science fiction writer Charlie Stross calls corporations slow AI. Right? They're profit-maximizing machines, and the most successful ones do whatever they can to achieve that singular goal. David Runciman makes this point more fully in his book, The Handover. And he describes governments, corporations, and AI all as superhuman machines that are more powerful than their individual components. David Chang, another science fiction writer, claims that our fears of AI are basically fears of capitalism, and that the paperclip maximizer is every startup's business plan. So this is the story of the internet. Right? Surveillance and manipulation are its business models. Products and services are deliberately made worse in the pursuit of profit. And we use these services as if they're our agents working on our behalf. In fact, and you all know this, they're double agents, also secretly working for their owners. We trust them, but they're not trustworthy. They're not friends, they're services. And it's going to be the same with AI. And the result will be worse for three reasons. The first is that these AI systems will be more relational. We'll be conversing with them using natural language, and as such, we will naturally ascribe human-like characteristics to them. I actually think that websites will largely disappear in our AI future. Static websites where organizations make information generally available are a recent invention, and they're an anomaly. Before the internet, if you wanted to know when a restaurant opened, you would call and ask. Now, you check a website. In the future, you or your AI agent will once again ask the restaurant or the restaurant's agent or some intermediary AI. It'll be conversational just like it used to be. And this relational nature will make it easier for the double agents to do their work. Did your chatbot recommend a particular airline or hotel because it's the best deal for you, or because the AI company got a kickback from those companies? When you asked it to explain a political issue, did it bias that explanation towards the political party that gave it the most money? Unlike search, the conversational interface will help the AI hide its agenda. Second reason is power. Sometimes we have no choice but to trust someone or something because they are powerful. And we are forced to trust the local police because they are the only law enforcement authority in town. We're forced to trust some corporations because there aren't viable alternatives. Or, I guess to be more precise, we have no choice but to entrust ourselves to them. We're going to be in the same position with AI. In many instances, we will have no choice but to entrust ourselves to their decision-making. The third reason to be concerned is that these AIs will be more intimate. One of the promises of generative AI is a personal digital assistant, an agent, agentic AI, acting as your advocate to others, as an assistant to you. We're not here yet. It might take a while. But if you think about it, making this work will require a greater intimacy than your search engine, your email provider, your cloud storage system, your phone. People are working on direct neural interfaces. You're going to want it with you 24/7, training on everything you do so it can most effectively work on your behalf. and it'll help you in all sorts of ways. It'll notice your moods and know what to suggest. It'll anticipate your needs and work to satisfy them. It'll be your therapist, your life coach, your relationship counselor. You will default to thinking of it as a friend. It will converse with you in natural language. If it's a robot, it'll look humanoid or like an animal. It'll interact with the whole of your existence just like another person. And you will want to trust it. It will use your mannerisms and your cultural references. It'll have a convincing voice, a confident tone, an authoritative manner. Its personality will be optimized to exactly what you respond to. So all this is a long-winded way of saying that we need trustworthy AI. AI whose behavior is understood, whose limitations are understood, AI whose training is understood, whose biases are understood and corrected for, AIs whose values and goals are understood, that work in your interest and won't secretly betray your trust to somebody else. An AI that is secure against hacking, so you know it'll deliver the results it promises to. But remember that social trust is all about reliability and predictability, and that we create social trust through laws and technologies. And here we need both. Because the failures come from one of two places. The powerful corporations controlling the AIs, we've talked about that, and others manipulating the AIs, hacking them. Almost all AI systems are going to be used in some sort of adversarial environment. And by that I mean someone will have a vested interest in what the AI produces or in the data it uses, which means it will be hacked. And when we think of AI hacks, there are three different levels. First, an adversary is going to want to manipulate the AI output, an integrity attack. Failing that, they're going to want to eavesdrop on it, confidentiality attack. And failing that, they'll want to be able to disrupt it, an availability attack. Note that the integrity attacks are the most critical. So imagine AI as an advisor in an international trade negotiation, or as a political strategist, or as a legal researcher. There will be an incentive for someone to hack that AI. Maybe a criminal, maybe a government. And it doesn't matter how accurate or capable or hallucination-free the AI system is, if we can't guarantee that it won't be hacked, then it won't be trusted. Right? Did the AI give a biased answer because a foreign power hacked it to serve its interest? We were already seeing Russian attacks that deliberately manipulate AI training data. Or did the AI give a biased answer because some criminal group hacked it to run some scam? That's coming next. At the end of the day, AIs are computer programs. They're written in software that are run on hardware, that are attached to networks, and interact with users. Everything we know about cybersecurity applies to AI systems, along with all the additional AI-specific vulnerabilities, like prompt injection or training data manipulation. But people will use and trust these systems even though they're not trustworthy. Trustworthy AI requires AI security. And it's a hard technical problem because of the way machine learning systems are created and how they evolve. And we are used to the confidentiality problem and to the availability problem. What's new and more important is the integrity problem that runs through the entire AI system. So let's talk about integrity and what that means. It's ensuring that no one can modify the data. That's a traditional security angle, but it's much more. Integrity encompasses the quality and completeness of the data and the code over both time and space. Integrity means ensuring that the data is correct and accurate from the point of collection through all the ways it's used, modified, and eventually deleted. We tend not to think of it this way, but we already have primitive integrity systems in our computers. The reboot process, which returns a computer to a known good state, is an integrity system. The undo button, which prevents accidental data loss, is another integrity system. Integrity is also making sure that data is accurate when it's collected, that it comes from a trustworthy source or sensor. Digitally signed data preserves integrity. It's ensuring that nothing important is missing, and data doesn't change as it moves from format to format. So any system to detect hard drive errors, file corruption, or drop packets is an integrity system. Checksums are an integrity system. Tesla manipulating odometer readings is an integrity attack. And just as exposing personal data on a website is a confidentiality breach, even if no one accesses it, failing to guarantee the integrity of data is a breach, even if no one deliberately manipulated it. Integrity breaches include malicious actions and also inadvertent mistakes. Most modern attacks against AI are integrity attacks. Putting stickers on road signs to fool self-driving cars is an integrity attack. Prompt injection is an integrity attack. In both cases, the AI model can't distinguish between legitimate data and malicious commands. Manipulations of the training data, the model, the input, the output, or the feedback are all integrity attacks. Integrity is important for personal AIs, but is arguably even more important for AIs inside corporations. So we can imagine a corporate AI trained on an organization's data, generating reports, analyzing decisions, taking actions on its behalf. Privacy matters here, but it's always been important. The integrity of that model is critical to the operation of the system. Without it, everything falls apart. So think of this in terms of the evolution of the internet. Remember the CIA triad? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So Web 1.0 of the 1990s and early 2000s was all about availability. Individuals, corporations rushed to digitize their content. And this created the vast repository of human knowledge that we know of today. And making information available overshadowed all other concerns. Web 2.0, the current web, emphasizes confidentiality. This is the read-write web, where your private data needs to remain private. Think of online banking, e-commerce, social media. Anywhere you're an active participant, confidentiality is paramount. Web 3.0 is the distributed, decentralized, intelligent web of tomorrow. So peer-to-peer social networking, distributed data ownership and storage, Internet of Things, AI agents. All of these require verifiable, trustworthy data and computation. Integrity. There's no real-time car-to-car communications without integrity. There's no drone coordination or smart power grid or mesh networking. And there are no useful AI agents. So I predict that integrity will be the key security problem of the next decade. And it's a hard problem. Integrity means maintaining a verifiable chain of trust from input to processing to output. It's both data integrity and computational integrity, also authentication and secure auditing. This hasn't gotten a lot of attention, and I think it needs some real fundamental research. So in another context, I talked about this as a research question that rivals the internet itself. The internet was created to answer the question, can we build a reliable network out of unreliable parts in an unreliable world? That's an availability question. I have previously asked a similar question. Can we build a secure network out of insecure parts in an insecure world? And I meant that as a confidentiality question. Now I want to ask about integrity. Can we build an integrous system out of non-integrous parts in a non-integrous world? The answer isn't obviously yes, but it isn't obviously no either. So consider this a call to research into verifiable sensors, auditable system outputs, into integrity verification systems, integrity breach detection systems, into ways to test and measure the integrity of a process, into ways to recover from an integrity failure. And weirdly, we have a language problem. Okay, so security is to secure, as availability is to available, as confidentiality is to confidential, as integrity is to what? It's not integral, right? That's the wrong word. And there actually is a word, and I just used it a couple of minutes ago. It's integrous. It's a real word that is so obscure that it is not in Webster's Third Dictionary, even in the unabridged version. All right, so right here, right now, I want to start talking about integrous system design. All right, so let me give a concrete example, something I've been working on, active wallets. So right now, the digital wallet on your phone is passive, right? It's a place to store your images of your tickets and other credentials, a software version of your credit card. It's basically an analog wallet in digital form. So I'm working to transform digital wallets using an internet protocol called Solid. And this is a W3C standard for personal data stores. The idea is that instead of your data being dispersed among a bunch of different systems, right, your email provider, your fitness tracker, your photo library, your credit card transactions, all your data is stored in your wallet. And then you can give different apps read and write permission. And that allows for generative uses of the data. And it nicely distributes power among the users, which is not what you get in present-day systems. So this active wallet could be an example of an AI assistant. It'll combine personal information about you, transactional data you're a party to, and general information about the world outside, and use it to answer questions, make predictions, and ultimately, sometime in the future, maybe even act on your behalf. Now, we have demos of this running kind of in early stages, but making it work was going to require an extraordinary amount of trust in the system. And that is going to require integrity, which we need to build in from the beginning. But even with technological standards like Solid, the market will not provide social trust on its own. Right? This is a market failure. Corporations are profit maximizers at the expense of society. And honestly, the lures of surveillance capitalism are just too much to resist. Right? They will build systems in their own interest and underinvest in security to protect our interests. It is government that provides the underlying mechanisms for social trust. Think about contract law, or laws about property, or laws protecting your personal safety, or any of the health and safety codes that let you board a plane, or eat at a restaurant, or buy a pharmaceutical without worry. The more that you can trust that your social interactions are reliable and predictable, the more that you can ignore their details. So government can do this with AI. I want AI transparency laws, how it's used, how it's trained, what biases and values it has. I think we need laws regulating AI and robotic safety. Like when and how are they permitted to affect the world? We need laws regulating their behavior as double agents. How much can they spy on us? And when can they manipulate us? I think we need minimum security standards for the computers the AIs are running on, and especially standards for the AIs that interact with the outside world. And laws that enforce AI security, which means recognizing when these laws are broken, which means penalties that are large enough to incent trustworthy behavior. So many countries are contemplating AI safety and security laws. EU AI Act was passed last year. But I think they largely make a mistake. They try to regulate the AIs and not the humans behind them. AIs are not people. They don't have agency. They are built by, trained by, and controlled by people, mostly for-profit corporations. And any AI restrictions should place the burden on those people and corporations. Otherwise, the regulations are making the same category error I've been talking about. At the end of the day, there is always a human responsible for whatever the AI's behavior is. And it's the human who needs to be responsible for what they do and what their companies do, regardless of whether the action was taken by a human or an AI or some combination of both. Like maybe that won't be true forever, but it'll be true in the near future. If we want trustworthy AI, we need trustworthy AI controllers. And we need one final thing, and that's public AI models. So these are systems built by academia or nonprofit groups or by government that can be run by individuals. So the term public model has been thrown about a lot in the AI world, so it's worth detailing what I mean by it. It's not a corporate model that the public is free to use. It's not a corporate model that the government has licensed. It's not even an open source model that the public is free to examine and modify. Open source is a complicated term to apply to modern machine learning systems because they don't have source code in the same way that a conventional system does. And right now, the AI industry is trying to subvert the meaning of open source to allow for secret training data and mechanisms. Now, I think we need models that use secret training data. Right? Imagine a medical model trained in everyone's personal health data. And I think we have ways of ensuring their privacy and integrity, but they are not open source. What I mean by a public model is a model built by the public for the public. So this means political accountability, not just market accountability. It means openness and transparency paired with a responsiveness to public demands. It should be available for anyone to build on top of, which means universal access, and a foundation for a market in AI innovations. My goal here is not to replace corporate AI, but to serve as a counterbalance to corporate AI. So we can never make AI into our friends, but we can make them into trustworthy services, agents and not double agents, but only if the government mandates it. We can put limits on surveillance capitalism and set minimum security standards and define and implement AI integrity, but only if the government mandates it. And it is well within government's power to do this. And most importantly, it is essential for government to do this, because the point of government is to create social trust. I started this talk by explaining the importance of trust in society, how interpersonal trust doesn't scale to larger groups, and how that other impersonal kind of trust, social trust, reliability and predictability, is what governments create. So I know this is going to be hard. Today's governments have a lot of trouble effectively regulating slow AI, corporations. Why should we expect them to be able to regulate fast AI? But they have to. Right? We need government to constrain the behavior of corporations and the AIs they build, deploy, and control. Government needs to enforce both predictability and reliability. All right, so that's 3 work streams to facilitate trust in AI. 1, AI security, as we know it traditionally. 2, AI integrity, more broadly defined. And 3, AI regulations to align incentives properly. We need them soon, and we need them all. And that's how we create the social trust that society needs in this AI era. So thank you. All right. So I made this talk deliberately shorter than I could so I can take questions and comments, because I always enjoy that. And there are microphones somewhere. There might be microphones somewhere. They're in front. There's a microphone there and a microphone there. So if people have questions, they should come up and ask them.
Hello.
Where are you? Where are you who's saying hello?
Up.
Up?
All the way up.
Oh my God.
So in terms of like governance then,
There are people up there.
yeah, sorry. The latecomers, the late boomers. In terms of governance then, what is your take on overall like decentralization? How would blockchains and all those like play into this trust piece again?
So you might know, you might not know, I have been on the record of saying that blockchain is the stupidest thing in the history of ever. And ever is a long time. So I see absolutely no value of blockchain in pretty much anything. There's a longer answer, I'm not going to give it.
That's unfortunate.
I've written about it. Sorry.
I will read to that. Thank you for that.
That's the only freaking, you can't raise your hand, you have to walk up to the microphone. I know, what are we doing in this theater? This is sort of interesting. Oh, see, someone knows what's going on. Where is the question, Mike? Oh, I see them. Okay. Oh, there's one over there. I get it.
Do you think it's too late for a system to counterbalance, like you said, the AI that's already been dumped with so much money?
So it's a bunch of interesting questions here. Right now, it costs an enormous amount of money to build a foundation model. We don't know if that's going to be true forever. The models are coming down in price, quite dramatically. The lesson of DeepSeek was that if you deny a corporation the best chips, they innovate and do things cheaper and better. And I think there's a lot of innovation to be had. Certainly, the AI companies right now are betting on that the models continue to be very expensive and very big, so they can sort of keep hold of it. There are over 1 million public domain models on Hugging Face right now. And my guess is that the future is going to be smaller, more special purpose models. And we are seeing some work in that orchestration of multiple models to do various tasks. If you're a company that wants a travel agent model, you don't want a big model, you want a good travel agent. And it's going to be cheaper and easier to run and easier to maintain. And my guess is that's the future. We're going to see. We also don't know if the current generative AI systems have sort of more to go, or they reach an evolutionary dead end. There's arguments among researchers about that. We don't know how the models yet interact with each other. One of the things DeepSeek did is use models to train models. So there's interesting interplay there. There's a lot of really complicated things. It's unlikely transformers, invented in what, 2011, are like the pinnacle of AI neuron development. There's probably something that comes after it. So there's a lot of unknowns in how these systems will continue to evolve, whether they're going to get better, whether we've sort of seen what they do, whether they'll be able to hallucinate less. People know the fun game now of going to Google's AI, making up a phrase and typing it in and saying meaning, and it like invents a meaning for your phrase. So the example I saw in the article was never lick a badger twice. It's an old saying that they just invented. But if you ask Google about it, it'll give you the whole history of that saying. Right? So not doing that is like, we're not sure we can get it not to do that. And it needs to have if you think about our mechanisms as humans, people make mistakes all the time. And we as humans have invented all sorts of systems of dealing with human mistakes. Double entry bookkeeping, copy editing, lists of surgical equipment, and none's left in your body after we sew you up. Right? All these things to deal with human mistakes. If AI makes human-like mistakes, we're covered. But AI makes different sorts of mistakes, and that's where we have a problem. When you say something that's wrong, it is generally around the fringes of your knowledge and accompanied by ignorance. But an AI will likely to make a mistake about astrophysics, then like things fall down versus up, and supremely confident about both. So all of those cues we have don't work. And it's really interesting to watch the AI researchers try to make the AIs make more human mistakes so we can deal with them better, than us inventing new security systems for the AI sorts of mistakes. And I think both things are going to happen. I'm digressing. There's a question up there. Over there, okay.
Hi, Bruce. My name is Tiffany Wilson, and I wanted to thank you for your work. My work is in disability accessibility, more specifically assistive technology distribution and healthcare compliance. And what we're seeing is an uptick in disability service providers who don't have training in assistive technology and healthcare compliance. And because IoT and AI is more accessible, more affordable, we're seeing them buying them in bulk and distributing it, of course, creating a lot of issues. One of the things that I've been advocating for is regulation change, and for products that advertise their IoT devices to be included in our distribution programs, for them to include ways for us to securely set up devices and ensure
All right,
privacy.
you got to get to the question part.
Okay.
Sorry.
My question is yes, we're going to get to regulations. What can I do now?
Nothing, you're screwed. Okay, so it's not that bad. Right? I mean, I say that because I think you're giving a generic, capitalism sucks problem. Right? This is hard because the companies are going to do that because that's what's profitable. And we're very much in a buyer beware world for these systems. So, I mean, in a sense, not a lot, because it's what you get. It's fighting for what you want, and the hope is regulation is going to step in. I mean, it won't be in the US in the next few years. I mean, of course not. That's done. But, Europe, which has been the regulatory superpower on the planet for many years, is likely to do good things. The benefit, if you think about regulation, right, so California has an IoT security law. I don't know if you know that, passed in 2020. One of the things that is in that law is no default passwords on IoT devices. Great, bare minimum. I guarantee you, every IoT device maker, they don't have one version to sell in California, one to sell elsewhere. They pull the default password out, and we all benefit. So a good regulation in a big enough market moves the planet. We all benefit from GDPR. Now, I remember when GDPR came into force. I was working for IBM at the time, weirdly. And the company said, we're implementing GDPR worldwide because that is way easier than figuring out who a European is. Right? Kind of interesting. We all benefit from those laws. So hopefully, either the states or other countries will step in where the U.S. is stepping back. Yes?
I like your angle on the responsibility of government in all this, like your presentation. My question is, how this is going to work across the planet? Because obviously one government is limiting these things, the other is going to exploit it.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Some cases, when I talked about GDPR and the IoT security law, it works in our favor. Right? So I'm generally a fan of a patchwork of laws. I don't need harmonizations. Companies can figure it out. Too bad. It's not hard. There are, 50 states, 200 countries? You can do this. Just do it. Sometimes it is a race to the bottom. So if you think about, I don't know, when we had a problem with some of the human cloning research. Right? It's banned here, the researchers move there. So I think for some things it'll be, the worst of the laws. Some things it'll be the best of the laws. This is hard. And it's hard for regulation. There is no country with the proper footprint to regulate Facebook. They're just too big. And that, we as a planet need to figure that out. And I think we're not. And that wasn't a helpful answer. Which side am I up to? You people know. Okay.
Effective regulation could take a very long time.
I know, right?
Effective. Do you anticipate, or what do you anticipate with civil litigation? Feel free to compare to self-driving cars.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So a couple of things. If you looked at the EU AI Act, they are attempting to be agile. So in it is the ability to adapt the regulation to changing technology. I think we need to figure that out. We need to figure out how to regulate in the same kind of agile manner that we write software. Right? Can we write legal code in the way we write computer code? That's a hard problem, philosophical problem. We're not going to get there soon. But I think we need to. Right? We need both of those things to work faster. Generally in the US, where we get the fastest regulation, effective regulation, are the regulatory agencies that are given broad authorities by Congress and then work out the details. Now, that has been torpedoed by the Supreme Court recently. Other countries have that mechanism. And then also the courts, which is what you mentioned, right? So the idea of private rights of action. When we have those, you tend to get regulation that happens inside courtrooms. The things that make that not work is in the United States, everybody settles, right? So we don't get rulings. We need rulings. And settling doesn't give us those. And then the courts tend to regulate about specifics, not about generalities. But if you look at, the laws regulating automobiles, they came around in the 1920s, through lots of different court cases. We can do that here. I think there is precedent for that. I think courts are good at that. Is it going to be fast enough? I don't know. The speed of tech versus the speed of our other social control systems is something to really think about. And as tech becomes more dangerous, when the cost of getting it wrong becomes, oops, you dropped a species, right? then things like the precautionary principle start becoming things we want to do. Right? It was generally okay to let tech lead regulation, because if you got it wrong, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't that bad. Now the costs of failure are much more critical. And I don't know how to get around that. And if you can't get around that, we've kind of just solved the Fermi paradox, which is not a great answer either. Yeah.
Hi, Bruce. I was wondering, what are your thoughts about how we should be thinking about freedom of speech in a world where so much of the content that we're bombarded with is being created by or with the assistance of technology that has learned how to manipulate?
Yeah,
this very-
right. I mean, how do we? Well, so again, hard in the U.S. because the courts decided that basically money is speech, so that's not great, and that corporations have speech rights that humans do, which also is not great. I mean, so how do we make sure we have guaranteed human voices? And I think that's an issue, because we respond to the speech around us. And if we're on social media, our sense of what people think we get from what other people are saying. And if those other people are largely bots, we're in a manipulated environment, and what we believe to be like the norm of conversation is not true and is manipulated. So I mean, I've seen lots of proposals for proofs of humanhood, which is getting harder now. Your AIs can solve CAPTCHAs. You could just ask them to. Not great. Or maybe it is great, but it's certainly a thing. Right, so how do we guarantee humanness? I mean, like this room. This room is guaranteed human, because we can all look at each other and say, yeah, all right, that looks like a person. Right? We have not invented androids that could pass. But we have invented text bots that can pass. I think we need to solve that. I do. I think the manipulation of discourse by power, whether it's corporate power, government power, our government, other governments, is overwhelming true discourse. Some of this is being fixed by people retreating from the large social media into their private social media. Right? The WhatsApp group of your friends, that's super fun, right? Guaranteed people. And that's one of the reasons we like them. There's a bunch of people studying this. It is not my area, but I do think I am concerned about it. Yeah.
Hi, Bruce. I had a question about what your prediction for the catalysts that will drive AI regulation, at least here in the States.
I am terrible at catalysts. Right? Remember when we thought that Y2K would generate all this concern about cybersecurity? And we were wrong about that. Remember when, I don't know, the Equifax breach, OPM, right? Every American's clearance data was stolen by the Chinese. That was going to be the thing. I don't know. I've given up. I've given up predicting what is the thing that are going to get people to notice. You know, I don't want it to be a big catastrophe. If it is going to be a big catastrophe, it has to be bigger than the ones we've seen, which is not great. It's hard. I don't have a good answer. And the things I thought would work have not. And maybe because it hasn't been catastrophic enough. You know, we as a species tend not to be proactive. It's very hard for us to be proactive because the thing hasn't happened yet. So we are reactive. So just as 9/11 caused basically us to lose a whole lot of privacy, remember total information awareness? Right? I mean, the opposite of privacy, because everyone was scared. Are we going to get some sort of cybersecurity because everyone is scared? Problem is, it's expensive. I mean, we all going to have to be willing to pay more for our refrigerator because it's going to have cybersecurity built in, or our toys, or our stuff. And most people don't want to do that. The market doesn't reward that. Which is why I need regulation, because the market doesn't reward good security. The market rewards cheap and feature-rich. So, I need something that is not a market force, otherwise I'm not going to get what I want. I don't know what's going to make people think otherwise. Yes?
Thank you. My name is Chinna Subramaniam. I am from Identity and Access Management space. So what do you think about the private enterprise applications within internal, like organizations, as long as data is integrity, everything is in place, how to choose models to train internal data which is not having access to internet, but how to make sure it's not biased, it's actually validating everything.
Yeah, so a couple of things about that. Let me talk about bias. I think that word's getting a bad rap. Right? I might want my AI to be biased towards fairness or kindness or accuracy. Right? The flip side of bias are values. We call it a bias if we don't like it. We call it a value if we do like it. If you have an AI that is your personal assistant, you will want it to be biased. You want to have your biases. I've just written a book on AI and democracy. It'll be out in October. No one's going to want to read it, but that's okay. And I talk about judges using an AI. And judges will want to bias AI. Right now, judges hire biased law clerks. They hire law clerks that match their political and legal opinions, right? The way they interpret law. And that makes sense, right? It's their law clerk. They should hire they should hire someone who matches their biases. If they're going to use an AI, they're going to want it to be biased in the ways they like. So when you think of AI being used for personal use, in my book I talk about a candidate using an AI, same thing. You're going to want it to have your biases. If it is used in some more neutral system, so imagine an AI making benefits decisions, or doing some piece of bureaucratic work, reviewing FOIA documents, one of the things we talk about. There, you're going to want it to be more neutral and not have some political bias. I mean, possibly an administration might, but I think we as society would want it to be neutral. An AI is giving out traffic citations. So depending on how it's being used, the notion of bias or values matters more or less. And I think that's going to be interesting. For an organizational AI, I think that there's going to be issues there as well. But I think the companies will figure this out through testing, through using them. Right? And we figure out someone's bias by looking at their output. And this is one of the reasons I'm not big on AI explainability, because I don't think we have that with people either. I mean, explanations are basically justifications. You ex post create them to justify the decision you made in your head. And I can't open up your brain and figure out why you made a decision. I sort of try to understand your decision by looking at a pattern of the decisions. So I don't know. I think this shakes itself out pretty well. And where the AI is biased in a way we don't like, and more importantly, it's generally untrusted. And I worry much more about cybersecurity than I do about bias. If you can't trust the AI has not been hacked, you are not going to use it. Right? Period. And I don't think we as an industry can produce an AI that we can say, yep, that has not been hacked. We'll get close, but that's a dangerous guarantee to give. All right, you're my last question.
In Russia, when Stalin was oppressing his opposition, he was removing references to these people from photographs and historical articles. So it was called Russia is a country with unpredictable past. So it strikes me that the risk of data poisoning for AI training is a kind of the same thing, which could be used to either indoctrinate your own citizens or to incite things that didn't happen in your political rivals.
Right, so I think that's right, but that's also been true for a while. I mean, you can delete your social media history. A government can change official entries on government websites. I'm not sure AI makes a difference there. Digitizing things, I think, gives that risk, because digitized things are editable in a way that books are not. That it took work to remove books from a library. You can do it, but it takes more work. But digital systems can be changed much faster. I do worry about that, but I don't think it's an AI problem. I think the problem predates AI. I'm not sure AI makes it worse.
Because AI models are trained on the data available,
Yeah,
you would be able to manipulate those models.
I get it.
Search engines.
Right, but we're also trained. I mean, but so are we. And you can manipulate us more directly. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'm just not sure the AI makes it worse. Anyway, they're going to kick me off the stage. Thank you for coming. I am going to be doing a book signing at 3:30. My latest book is A Hacker's Mind, which I'll put up a picture of. They claimed they would. There it is. So at the bookstore at 3:30, you can't all fit. So work it out amongst yourselves. Thank you very much.